And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. How did you enjoy the Super Bowl?
Why you gotta ask me that question? Why do you know the answer to that question? You just try. It's 30 seconds into the show. You're trying to get me all worked up. Is that what this is? Is that what you're trying to do right now?
If I wanted to get you worked up, this is what I do. Teams don't three-peat in the NFL.
Doesn't mean it can't happen. Doesn't mean it can't happen.
Give me Philadelphia.
Shit pick.
I don't trust three-peats. Not in the NFL.
I think that we have a unique circumstance.
If I wanted to get you worked up, that's what I would have done.
So that's your guy. That's your gotcha moment right there. That's how you're getting me. And on top of this, I have to live and see that Saquon Barkley won a Super Bowl with the one team I freaking hate.
Yeah,
that's all you're getting out of me.
You could have had Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley.
Don't remind me, Blake. Please don't remind me. I don't.
It's a damn shame.
If you ask Sean, you
want to hear how I remembered this? So I'm sitting in the carpool line today, and I see a comment from someone from yesterday's live show, and I guess they're watching the end, and they're like, "Hey, Blake, great pick on Philadelphia. Yeah, you were right. The three-peat doesn't work." And I'm like, "What is this guy talking about?" So
I remember you said it. You don't even remember.
I had no clue. Completely forgot about it. Out of my mind.
Whoever pointed this out to you, by the way?
Well, I mean, Drew, I think was it Drew Durman, I think was his name. So to Drew, thank you, Drew, for watching the show. But then number two, thank you for letting me your boy know. So I come over here and say a whole bunch of shit, and then 45 minutes later, I forget about it.
So, not only are you rubbing in that part of it, but again, like I was saying a second ago, if you ask Sean, I was extremely miserable last night. I was in an awful mood.
I did not see it going like that, though. I really didn't.
I wouldn't have minded it if Philly won like a close game. I have no rooting interest with the Chiefs. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I am very anti-Philly. I am very anti now Saquon Barkley because I'm a Giants fan. Seeing that the both of them are succeeding and they blew them out that badly, it ruined my weekend. It completely ruined my weekend.
How funny is it that teams in the NFL and teams in college football continue to be the teams that have the best run defense and the best teams running the football continue to win championships? How is that still a thing? Joe, here's a hot take. Are you ready? Yeah. I think we're back to old school football.
Oh, hell yeah, we are. Well, I think that it's less about we're back to old school football and more of us allowing for a new version of the media, which is media that's driven by analytics, to try and push to us this narrative that you got to throw the ball. You got to throw the ball a ton. You got to be able to attack downfield and throw the ball. If you try to live by running the ball, you're just not going to survive. Going along the line of scrimmage.
We got Espen.
But I've PFF'd also.
That's true too. But as the great Will Ferrell and AKA Ron Burgundy once said, we got Espen. That'll never work. A full show of sports highlights, it will never work. But it is interesting that continues to be the theme. But you know who didn't give two Rudy Poos about what happened last night? That being DJ Durkin, and it might have been Matt Patricia, as we'll talk about both of them. Durkin getting a massive extension, $2.5 million a year to stay the DC at Auburn. And Matt Patricia's name is circling around the waves for Ohio State, so we'll talk about that as well.
I'm really interested to get into the Matt Patricia conversation because
I don't like it.
Really?
No, I don't like it at all.
All right, I have a take that I'm going to save for later because he has been a really inconsistent coach because there was a stretch where when he was leading that Patriots defense, it was freaking dominant. And then he came back and he was wearing a bunch of different hats that wasn't the DC job. He has not held like a really steady role since then. So I understand the pause with the move, but there's always positivity for me bringing in a former NFL coordinator to lead a defense.
Look, it's not that I probably shouldn't say I don't like it. Look, man, it's not like he's coming in with a Chip Kelly style of things going on here with the athletes. There's a lot to replace.
Understandable.
A lot to replace. And I don't know how comfortable I would feel if the last time let's just call it decade, that I've seen a guy that, quite frankly, things have not gone well. Now, I will say this. He was an offensive coordinator that one year, and ironically, they were better offensively that year than they were this one. I saw Matt Patricia be the one that actually said that. But we'll talk about that. I got my hesitancies, Joe. Like I have my I don't know, man. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel like a move that Ohio State should make. Maybe I'm wrong, but what do I know? And Ryan Day just won a national title, so I guess I should give him the grace on that one. But DJ Durkin, who, quite frankly, Joe, I think a lot of people make a lot of things and say a lot of things about DJ Durkin. Dude, I think he's a hell of a DC. Speaking of a guy who's been in the top 25, top 30 total defense, I mean, look, the A&M teams that he was on, defense was not their problem, and it never was their problem. They got after teams. But offense was their issue under Jimbo Fisher, and he really led it. But getting an extension at Auburn is what we'll talk about here today.
I'm just a little not perplexed because it makes sense why he would be in the discussion to be paid. Just that statement, to be paid. Is he the second best defensive coordinator in the sport? Because Jim Knowles is the only guy who's paid more than him right now.
Well, Blake Baker's making around the same. I mean, he's making $2.5 million a year. I would assume that these coordinator numbers are now going to go up. And Joe, quite frankly, $1 million under Jim Knowles after having 6 years of being around the top 20, top 25 in total defense, I don't think it's outlandish.
I'm not saying that it's outlandish. I just don't think that he's done a great job. He just doesn't fit being the second highest paid defensive coordinator. I think that there are a lot of other defensive coordinators that could be more deserving of making more than him. I mean, we talked about Tom Allen, him going to Clemson. I'm surprised that he's making more than Tom Allen. We've talked about Phil Parker a ton and how great of a DC is. I think being in the top 25 is notable, but to be where he is right now just seems like a bit much. And we can save that discussion in a second when we hit the break.
We will. We'll also talk about our 3, probably 4 to 5, because I'm sure we'll have some of the same ones.
Yeah.
I did come with honorable mentions just in case you take one of mine or I take one of yours that we could get to here of some guys that we would need to discuss. But what are some of the best moves made in the transfer portal offensively on these teams is also we're going to talk about. But I just can't come away with, I think the entire offseason is going to be focused around, from a portal standpoint, quarterback John Mateer at Oklahoma.
Admittedly, the moves that I tried to stay away from going super quarterback heavy and going Carson Beck and John Mateer and going with the big dogs because, one, I thought that you were going to end up bringing them up. 2, I think those are the low-hanging fruit, and not in a bad way. So
I went an offensive lineman in here. If I'm being honest.
Oh, okay. I'm curious which lineman you end up.
It's not going to be hard to find. I'm going to tell you that.
Is it an LSU guy?
No, there's no LSU guys.
If he's not hard to find, then I'm assuming it's somebody who's enormous. Is that the joke that you're making?
No. Oh yeah, I mean,
I know who you're talking about. Then I know exactly.
345. I mean, it's
big boy. He's a big dude.
He's a very, very big dude. Of the 19 players, or 19 of the 9 players that I have on here, only one was an LSU guy.
I could probably guess.
Yes.
It was Mansour DeLeone that you put on there for when we did.
It is not. It is not.
Was it Nick Anderson?
It is not.
Barian Brown?
It is not. Here's the problem. You're thinking of offense. We were going to do defense.
Oh,
today
so
too.
it was so it's Patrick Payton.
Yeah. It is Patrick Payton. Considering the fact that LSU under Blake Baker moved up 65 spots in total sacks, I don't think that they had a guy like Patrick Payton.
No.
I've spent more time of any player outside of Paul Skeens, even more than Jaden Daniels, of watching games with Patrick Payton. I do not. Okay.
I'm an advocate for Patrick Payton as well,
Yeah,
because preseason I broke down his tape and I said that this kid was a first-round pick. And I know that there's character questions that keep getting brought up by the Florida State side because, frankly, it's very easy for a fan base that's pissed off that a guy didn't play to his potential to just say that this guy was an ass and he didn't care. When your team sucks,
I got to be honest.
Sucks.
I went to 2023, and here's a hot take. There were games that he was more productive than the defensive rookie of the year, that being Jared Verse. I mean, if we're going to call us, by the way, Braden Fisk was a nominee for defensive player or a rookie of the year as well. There are games, Virginia Tech, that he completely took it over. LSU, and he runs down Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner. You went 2-10. You went 2-10. He did not go 2-10.
Frankly, it's bullshit and it's lazy. The comment that I remember getting from people when I reshared his 2023 tape was, "Oh, that's so easy to do when you're playing next to Jared Verse and Braden Fisk." And it's, man, you guys really didn't read into this or like really watch the tape with the correct eye that you needed to. You were looking at it very incorrectly if you thought that was all the reasoning for why he did so well.
Patrick Payton went against 3 first-round, or I'm adding in Will Campbell, so spare me. Went against 3 first-round tackles. All of them gave up a sack. All of them.
Yeah.
Good luck.
The kid's gifted. The kid's very talented.
So I do not have anybody from LSU on offense, but LSU's got a lot they got to prove there, Joe.
As do a lot of these teams.
Look, listen. They put your boy in the hype video, and I appreciate it. I very much appreciate being a part of the hype video.
Wait, what hype video?
They did a transfer portal hype video, and your boys in there.
LSU did.
Yes.
No, that's pretty sick.
I appreciate it. Okay. I think Barian Brown is very interesting. I need to go out there and see it first.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we're less than a month away from the SEC, the entire SEC and Big Ten hitting spring football. So, how about that?
I didn't realize we were that close. Yeah, wait, because we're mid-February, mid-March. Ooh, you got me fired up right there. Less than a month away, so that means so the start of this week marked a month.
I think Bama, LSU, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Georgia start in that second week of March. I told you, like, everybody rips on Pate, okay, about the no offseason stuff. He's not lying. Brother, we got less than 30 days here.
Yes.
So
screw Matt Rule trying to get rid of spring games, by the way.
Oh,
I know why he wants to do that.
Can we respond to that very quickly?
Go ahead. Yeah.
What a soft ass move. God, that shit is so soft.
I understand why he wants to get rid of it, but yes, if you're really that worried that you're going to lose your top guys because they go out there and put on a show at the spring game, that means you don't have control over your roster. Like, that means your guys aren't bought in if they that quickly. One reach out would just leave. What they should do, they should get rid of the spring transfer portal window. That shouldn't be a thing. They should just keep it in. There should only be one, so then that would prevent something like that from happening.
The only reason I'm going to say I don't agree with that. Texas got 2 position coaches up and left after some of these freshman kids came in. I mean, we got more. I mean, think about this. Matt Patricia, we'll talk about coming out of the break here. Matt Patricia might coach linebackers. And if I'm a freshman linebacker, I came here for Jim Knowles. I didn't come for Matt Patricia. I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, but if you're going to allow that to happen the way that just happened, well, it is what it is. All right. We got a good show in store for you. Let's get to our good friends over at BetOnline. Everybody hit the like and share to all those groups. We're back. Okay. Let's get rolling here. Joe, some more coaching news. I feel like every day we come out here is exactly what we discuss, and I'm not complaining about it. But DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator for Auburn, is getting an extension, $2.5 million a year. I've seen this one be about 50-50. People liking the extension, people not really liking the extension. I'm in the camp of I think it's good. I mean, he's been pretty productive everywhere he's been. But your thoughts on DJ Durkin getting the extension at Auburn?
DJ Durkin has been one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in college football in the last 5 years. When the hire was made by Auburn, we gave it a lot of attention. We gave it a lot of love. We said that this is going to pay a lot of dividends for Hugh Freeze because he needs to bring in a highly reputable defensive coordinator to help this team start to improve. And we saw that last year. We saw some guys get unlocked, and we saw their defensive performance get better despite putting out a couple of guys to the NFL. I agree that DJ Durkin is deserving of being in the upper category of the highest paid coordinators in the sport. But it just feels a little weird to me that he is now the second, not the third, not the fourth, nowhere else, the second behind Jim Knowles, highest paid defensive coordinator in the sport. The strangest part, and I don't know if this is maybe something I was missing, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, there were multiple really important coordinator openings, defensive coordinator openings over the past month since the national championship. His name wasn't brought up once. So what motivated this? Was he getting potentially poached? Was the NFL interested? What was the motivator here? I have got a lot of questions. I don't have a ton of answers. Well, that's the thing. We don't know that it didn't happen.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I will say this. We're getting to Matt Patricia for the DC at Ohio State. There are other people that were on that list before they got to Matt Patricia. You and I both know that. And I do wonder, the same day that the Matt Patricia news did come out about Ohio State, if DJ Durkin's name didn't start flying around there. Here's the most impressive thing for me. Well, and let me back up for just a second. Joe, you and I know how this business works. When names of coordinators are flying around the way that they're flying around, they all have the same agent. So, I mean, like, look, the Alabama coaching search told you everything. Norvell, Sark, everybody getting an extension. Everybody's name getting out there in the float. I think for DJ, here's the most impressive thing for me when I think about him. Their defenses are still competing and dominating in moments, even in chaos. Look at A&M. Let's look at A&M. No more chaos than what DJ Durkin had to go through. None. Zero. They paid a man $75 million to walk away. And you know what he did? Dominated. Joe, they're a mismanaged game away from beating Alabama in back-to-back seasons. Thank you, Jimbo. I look at Hugh Freeze and I look at Auburn. You have a top 25 defense throughout the entire regular season. And then I come back and I'm like, wait a damn minute. A team that almost led the SEC in turnovers. Offensively, they were horrible. Peyton Thorne was god-awful. Every time I see a team with DJ Durkin on it, the offensive side of the football never lives up or never gives him anything. And then he's still a top 25 unit. What happens if he has an offense that can actually play competitive and complementary football? So when Auburn's got a lot that they got to figure out, whether it be Hugh Freeze, whether it be, nobody's talking about DJ Durkin being fired, by the way. No one. Whether he was at A&M or he's at Auburn. Like, the issues with all the chaos, it's never DJ Durkin, ever. So I look at this entire situation and say to myself, I got nothing but Jimbo and Hugh Freeze chaos, and I'm still doing pretty damn good. I think that's highly impressive, if I'm being honest, Joe.
Look, I don't disagree with any of those things that you just said. They're all very true. He is a top 10 defensive coordinator in the sport right now. And eventually, during the offseason, we're going to do our coordinator rankings like we always do. Be on it. He'll be top 10. He's worthy of being top 10. Maybe he's top 5. But I just feel like that there could be so many other names on here that are not more deserving, but that should be more higher paid than him. Like Phil Parker's the first one, and I was not going to pay him that type of money.
How much
they just
would Phil
not
Parker
going to do
make
it.
on the open market?
Phil Parker would probably make 2.5 on the open market if he got up and left.
Why would Iowa pay the man if he's just not going to leave anyway? You think people didn't come in there and try to give him more money to leave? I mean, like I'm with you. I understand what you're saying, but like the money part of an extension when a guy's coming off a top 20 defense, top 25 defense, I don't know what I can say about that if I'm being honest. I really don't, especially when there's so much chaos not created by him. Now, you know why I really think that DJ Durkin, and rightfully so to some extent, but the cloud will always be over DJ Durkin because of what happened at Maryland. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about on the field situations here. That's what we get paid here to do. I'm not paid to talk about that. I just feel like there's a cloud over him. But every time that I look up and there's chaos around him, he continues to shine. You know what he is?
What?
He's like a weed. You don't garden, do you?
Well, no, I live in an apartment, so no, I don't garden. But
Okay,
I know how weeds work. But what are you getting at here?
What I'm saying is even in the chaos, he's like a rose bush. He keeps shining, right? I mean, it's just the truth. And by the way, name one guy from Auburn that's going to get drafted this year in the top 2 rounds defensively. So we talk about.
I don't even think that they're even really putting anybody out this year.
Okay, so think about this. Everybody said about him at Texas A&M that it was nothing because he had 5-star talent all around him. You can't make that same excuse now because of the simple nature that he did it with guys that won't even – like it was a completely different situation here.
Again, the comment that I'm not making about him is that he's not worthy of the contract. Like he's absolutely worthy of getting paid and being paid as a top defensive coordinator. I look across the sport and like Pete Golding's like a really good example. Pete Golding didn't get an extension. Pete Golding's not getting brought up for any of these openings.
In fairness, I think some other things outside for Pete Golding have issues of reasons why that is. That are not football related.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's public. It was out there and reported on. Joe, I mean, he leaves after Alabama after getting a DWI. I mean, like, it's how the public and PR works. I would pay the man top 3 money, top 2 money.
What about Pete Kwiatkowski, who's the Texas defensive coordinator? Texas's defense has been phenomenal over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They have the money to spend. I'm not. The argument that I'm bringing up almost isn't even like really one that can be fully articulated because
no, I get where you're coming from.
There's 2 sides that are being brought up, which is the side that you're bringing up, which is correct, is that DJ Durkin has been a phenomenal defensive coordinator and he's been in some really shit situations. And Auburn is doing the right thing of paying him what he's deserving. What would his numbers be like if he went to Ohio State? Like, how good of a DC would he be? He'd probably be one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, and nobody would doubt it.
Well, let's end it here.
Okay.
When he had that level of talent, okay, at Texas A&M, when they were, the first real team to do the NIL via recruiting.
Yeah.
What did he do? The number 1 run defense 2 years ago, the number 1 team in sacks 2 years ago. Joe, his offense sucked. Remember Max Johnson?
I remember Max Johnson. Max Johnson was awful.
So remember Jimbo Fisher's crazy ass?
I remember all of it, and I'm not doubting.
I mean, they were killing human beings, brother. The
adversity that he has powered through to produce elite defenses is extremely notable, but first of all, I got to see him enter from the top 25 into like the top 10 statistically.
Well,
I got to see him enter into that.
There.
Here's my last bit with this.
Okay.
This move to pay him this much money, I think a lot of administrations are going to be really pissed off about this. I think a lot of programs are going to be really pissed off about this because anybody who, and I just threw out a couple of names there, any defensive coordinator that is worth anything, just worth a shit, just a top 10% defensive coordinator in the sport, they're all going to be calling their agents and say, how the F did DJ Durkin who is below me in total yards allowed and points per game allowed. They all keep track of this stuff, by the way. So don't act like coaches don't know where they rank statistically. He's going to be saying, they're all going to be saying, where's my bread? And then the agent's going to call up the athletic directors. They're going to call up the head coaches and say, like, when are you paying my guy? I wouldn't be shocked if this doesn't lead to 2 to 3 more extensions.
Well, let's just hold off on that.
Why
just
not?
because
why?
you know why? You know why? Because you mean to tell me DJ Durkin just did that?
Well, right.
DJ Durkin literally is reacting, and they're reacting to the Jim Knowles news. Joe, it's $1 million difference.
But
$1 million a year. So DJ Durkin is on the level of what some of these other guys would make that would probably are going to come up to him. They're all reacting to the Jim Knowles news. This ain't
but the Jim Knowles wait. But the Jim Knowles news, that's a tongue twister. Jim Knowles news is relatively expected. Like him, oh my God, he just won the team a national title with how good their defense was. He gets the big pay bump. But DJ Durkin's kind of random in that list is what I'm talking about here. I think this is
random.
I think that this is gonna lead to at least one more extension, maybe 2.
You know who hasn't had a top 25 defense in college football ever?
Who's that?
Matt Patricia. Joe, the waves are circulating that obviously we just got done talking about Jim Knowles, but that Ohio State obviously looking for a defensive coordinator. Matt Patricia, the former Lions head coach, the former DC and OC, ironically, of the New England Patriots, his name has popped up here for their DC search. You better sell me on it because on the onset, I don't like it.
Like they're bringing in a Super Bowl winning coach. Plain and simple. They're bringing in a coordinator that was a 3-time Super Bowl winning coordinator. He has been around and a part of championships. Championship pedigree is, for me, one of the most important things. We're not talking about him getting hired as Ohio State's head coach. We're talking about him getting hired as their defensive coordinator. For me, I always have like a little bit of pause when an offensive coordinator jumps levels because sometimes that stuff doesn't work. The pro game play calling is very different from the college game play calling. Running a damn good defense and being aggressive and downhill, that translates across the sport. And the way that I know that this translates across the sport, Michigan just hired this past year Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale, for the longest time, was one of the best defensive coordinators at multiple stops. The results that he produced this past year at Michigan with Mason Graham in and out of the lineup, with Will Johnson in and out of the lineup, with all of a bunch of other dudes, all of their linebackers, a bunch of their other corners gone to the NFL. The fact that Michigan was as good as they were this year was pretty nuts. I say this all to say that if your rival has produced results with Wink Martindale, it's not a direct reason to feel optimistic about this, but there are examples across the sport of bringing in NFL DCs and then producing results. Our thoughts on him are negatively impacted by him being a shit head coach with the Detroit Lions and him being a part of the end of the mess that happened with the Patriots. I think that Ohio State fans should feel pretty good about this.
You didn't tell me. Why
can't you be sold? I
don't know because I look as a fellow Paisan, I want to come out here and root for the Italians, right? Like I want to root for the Italian success, like The Godfather, like the mafia, like spaghetti and pizza and lasagna, like I want to put that whole bit out here and go full Paisan. I can't do it. I can't do it because, listen, there have also been a lot of defensive coordinator hires and DC hires that could be made, a.k.a. Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. Why isn't Matt Patricia a part of that? Clearly, he didn't mind going to college. Why ain't he with Bill? Like, there are other NFL coordinator hires that need to be made.
Wait. To very quickly address that, his son was guaranteed to be his defensive coordinator. Like that was a no-brainer. Before that was even announced, everybody and their mother knew that Steve Belichick was going to be their DC.
That is fair.
Why would Patricia is smart enough to know that not to waste his time taking a position coach job at the college level? Like
Bill would make him a senior advisor to the head coach like he did in New England. Titles don't mean anything. Something feels off to this to me, man. I got to be real with you. I don't like it. There's a lot to replace. There's a lot going on, and I understand the game that he called in the NFL. It was not a bad one. You're right. He's the 3-time Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. There also comes a part where I don't recruiting. I don't like it. Connection and fit. I don't like it. I just don't like it across the board for whatever reason. I had this gut feeling, and I can't come out here and explain it. We talked about this with DJ Durkin just a minute ago. There's something in my gut telling me, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work. I don't know if it's just like culture, Ohio State. I don't know if it's that he uses a pencil on a laminated paper that Ohio State fans will freak out over in 4 weeks when the defense is bad. I don't know if this is a hire that I expect Ohio State to make for their DC.
My timeline might be a little bit off, but if I remember this correctly, Matt Patricia leaves the Patriots to take the Lions job. And this requires, for college folks that don't really care about the NFL, this requires obviously a memory of what happened in the NFL. He leaves to take the Detroit Lions job in 2018. According to what I'm reading here, he was the last defensive play caller under Belichick with the Patriots. Patricia was probably, in my eyes, was the last great defensive coordinator under Belichick. And as soon as he left, it felt like that was when there was the eventual downturn. Now, Tom Brady leaving obviously is the biggest impact in the Patriots, falling apart the way that they did at the very end. But defensively, they were inconsistent. Gerard Mayo was a good DC, and he produced some good results. But it felt like when Matt Patricia was there was a different type of defense. I think that how good they were was so clear and visible for that stretch. And it was long enough ago that it's kind of hard for us to remember. The second run of Super Bowls that they had where they won those 3, there was a gap between the first 3 and the last 3, were off of the production of what that defense did. He is an elite defensive mind, and I understand where you're coming from, where it does feel off. And I would argue your feelings of it feeling off are based on the fact that our recent memory of him are attached to shitty situation with the Patriots, where he's getting thrown all over the place to do a bunch of different things that he is not an expert in. And him being the head coach of the Lions and him being a bad head coach. Not everyone's meant to be a head coach. He's one of those dudes that's built to just be a really good defensive coordinator. He's like Vic Fangio. He's like Steve Spagnuolo. He's like Chip Kelly on the defensive side of the ball. Knowing we have enough, my whole thing here, here's my last point. Having as much of a sample size of premier success is why I think you should feel good about this. If he was just a good DC for a little bit, a part of a really good coaching staff, I'd understand if you had pause.
Well, I got pause on the situation, on the culture. And look, culture fit is not what I want to come out here and argue, right? Like, I'm not a culture fit guy. I think any guy can come in here and fit the culture. If you're winning, the culture is fine. If you're losing, the culture's shit. Okay. But I have not seen. Well, the quarterback leaves, and of course, the whole thing unravels in New England, right? He does. I see him in Detroit. I don't know, man. I just think that there's a lot that needs to be rebuilt and tooled at Ohio State coming off of this many guys leaving that I just don't like. I don't, because it's a difference defensively when you're having to develop and replace. Chip Kelly is a special breed. I don't remember a time where a DC came down from the NFL, and I know you talk about Wink Martindale. That one may work. I just don't know if Matt Patricia is a Wink Martindale type of dude. Like, I don't.
He's got more Super Bowls than Wink does.
No, sure. But that whole situation of them going 8-5 means what exactly? Like, I mean, we also saw moments where they weren't great. Like, I mean, there's a difference of Michigan falling after the whole Harbaugh thing and Ohio State falling. Joe, if Ohio State goes 8-5, then what? If they
They're not, hold on. They're not going 8-5.
You're exactly right. There's no way that's going to happen. But that's why I'm trying to say there's a massive difference, which you disagree with. Yeah, there will be a massive difference. So a lot to replace. You're going to have to give him time. The only thing that I would say is you're going to have to give this one time. And I'm talking about like 3 years worth of time. This 1 year wanting to pull the plug on dudes, it's not going to work.
I don't disagree with that part. I think that there should generally be patience with, like Jim Knowles was a good example. I mean, there were really bad games that they had against Michigan where they looked awful.
They just got physically abused. Let's call it what it is. They got physically abused. I mean, you run for 270-something yards, you got physically abused. I'm sorry.
But what I'm saying here, though, to what you're talking about, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. He needs to figure out how to communicate with 20-year-olds. I'm always – my final part with this is
NIL era.
Right. My final point with this is that the professionalization of the sport, and this is why I was a big advocate for his former boss, Bill Belichick, to work at UNC. More professional coaches getting into the sport is better for the sport, and they're going to have success because the sport's not what it was 5 years ago, where you're bringing in kids and you're expected to help them develop as young men. That is no longer the priority. It's these kids get paid, you win a national championship, and hopefully your fan base is happy. Bringing in guys that are pro guys that know how to manage those personalities, I think is now more important than ever. I trust that this will work, and frankly, I hope this is who they hire.
We'll see. I mean, look, as far as coordinator hires go, it's a late process. I get it. Brother, man, you're promoting from a guy that you demoted. And then you're going to get in Matt Patricia where this is a 50-50 boom bust situation here.
I don't know. I wouldn't call it 50-50. I feel like that's a little negative to look at it like that.
Okay. Okay.
It's going to be a good – this is better than the damn Chris Ash hire. I'll leave it at that.
Well,
I would rather – be in the running to bring in a guy that won 3 Super Bowls as a coordinator than one that frankly was not a very successful DC and was a really awful head coach. There is a higher chance that Chris Ash doesn't work compared to Matt Patricia.
Oh, for sure. Because it's Notre Dame.
All right.
All right. So, Joe, tonight we were gonna discuss our offense and defensive best portal players we like, where they're going, and the fit of where they're going. Today, we're not going to be able to get to defense. We're just going to start off with offense. And, Joe, I thought for what it's worth, just the entire portal process, I don't think that we had the portal names that we had a couple of years ago with Walter Nolan, et cetera. But I do think that this portal class has some really big names that entered into it. And we're going to talk some about the offensive side of things. I want to start here with you because I don't think that there's a bigger name that entered the portal and went somewhere bigger than John Mateer. I legitimately don't. Mainly due to the point that you're coming with your OC, you're leaving Washington State where you had a really good year, and you're going into a situation that historically has produced really good quarterbacks. So I think that for what it's worth, and the offensive guys that I think might have the biggest overall impact has got to be John Mateer because he's a guy that can run. He's a guy that's been fairly accurate, and he's coming with his OC, so he already knows the system of how things are going to go. I think that he's the guy that we'll talk about more offseason than any other quarterback because of the unknown. I think John Mateer's got to be on that list, man, because he did some special things in the way that he did it.
Yeah, it was my expectation that you were going to end up bringing up John Mateer, that he leads.
How can I not?
Right. And I think that he, more than Carson Beck, is the most important quarterback portal add this offseason. We didn't have like the crazy big race for Will Howard was highly talked about last cycle, and Riley Leonard was really highly talked about. It felt like we didn't really have that same type of sweepstakes that was going on for like a real premier quarterback. The minute that Arbuckle left Washington State to take the head coaching job, the offensive coordinator job with Oklahoma, this was a done deal. I think for what you just brought up, him being reunited and already playing in an offense that he knows, there's no guessing. There's no guessing like, is Mateer going to work playing in this offense? No, he's going to play in a system that he just spent time succeeding at a very high level in. The competition he's going up against is going to be a lot harder to deal with. With the issues that they've had with their offensive line and the slow progression of it, I think Mateer's play style is super important for Oklahoma.
I agree.
Improving this upcoming year because it's going to get mischaracterized. Jackson Dart was a good runner and he had some big rushing games, but John Mateer is a different type of runner. Like he is an improvisational, good awareness, good pocket poise, knows how to operate around pressure, knows when to escape. Arnold was, you had to call a design run and you had to hope that he found the lane to pick up yards. And the Alabama game is the only example that we really have.
And he had five receivers that were out.
Right. But Mateer, situationally, this is the biggest one because their success is literally riding on what this kid does.
So there is one thing. So look, you talk about the dual threat of his play. The 15 touchdowns are really good. I mean, he ran for damn near 1,000 yards. I mean, he was fantastic to watch. I know a lot of people make a lot about his throwing motion. There is something that I've seen in him that I don't like, though. Turnovers got to come down. He only had 7 picks, but man, they were bad picks. Like they're trying to do too much interceptions. He's got to rein that down in a better overall conference, clearly, than the Pac-12. As much as we loved the Pac-12, his schedule was not brutal at all. Like, right? I mean, that Washington State schedule, and I know that they got into the top 25, but, I mean, come on, man. I mean, it was pretty dire. I mean, everything that they were going through throughout the year. So he's got to turn that down, but he's a special athlete at quarterback that I think comes onto a team that, you're right, had bad O-line play. They had to do some things at receiver. They got a whole new crop offensively. They're going to have to help him out. It's not all on him. But Jackson Arnold, Joe, we saw could not – I mean, look, man, there were not a lot of times where he was given a lot of time, but they also weren't calling 7-step drops for his ass, 4, 5, 6, 7-step drops for his ass, right? We weren't doing that. Okay, what we were doing here is that he could not find the open receiver. He couldn't throw the football. I mean, like, look, man, the RPO would not work. You fired your OC, you blamed it on him. Okay, we'll find out. I look at John Mateer and think that it's a brand new world for Oklahoma offensively, and we're going to have to wait and see if he can do that in the SEC. All right, who's your number one guy that you want to discuss here that you like the portal fit offensively?
One guy that's pretty obvious. The other two maybe aren't as obvious. Zachariah Branch ending up at Georgia, I think, is just so impactful for what Georgia needed to improve on and what held them back this year. They had some good athletes at receiver, but they had so many inconsistencies. They had guys dropping balls left and right. They did not have consistent, reliable production from their receivers. Zachariah Branch didn't get the shine to the degree that we were going to hope that he was in his sophomore season. I think in this offense, with Bobo knowing what they need to do and they need to be more aggressive downfield and having a different type of quarterback back there with Gunnar Stockton, we saw him slinging it. We saw a very different style approach mentally between Gunnar Stockton and Carson Beck. And maybe it's Puglisi, who we haven't gotten to see yet. There's a whole offseason for us to figure that out. But Zachariah Branch, I still remember that kick return that he had against San Jose State in week 0 of his freshman season. And it gave you chills watching the kid run because he's got the vision, he has the elusiveness, and he's got the acceleration to just break away. It felt like watching Reggie Bush. That was the sense that you got. I can't remember the last time, maybe A.D. Mitchell or Lamakaki was obviously very good, but the last time that Georgia had like a really premier athlete like this at receiver. Labakaki was a really good receiver. He's a great NFL receiver. But I think that Zachariah Branch, if he hits his ceiling in his third year, he could end up being a top 5 guy in terms of receiving yardage.
I'm not going to go that far with him, and he did not make my list for this reason. If you do run it back with Gunnar Stockton, and he is the guy, I don't know if he look. I'm not sure if the style of offense benefits him enough for him to make that massive of an impact. I think he would make an impact, but I don't know how big. Now, you hear Georgia players on social media. I know that they all do a podcast, and in the podcast, bro, they were talking about Ryan Puglisi slinging it all over the place. It very well could work. I'm just interested. I don't think Lincoln sucks as a coach in reference to offense and how he calls plays. I don't think he sucks. I wonder. I want to know the disconnect there, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that Lincoln only called short stuff for him for just small reasons. I feel like there's got to be a reason there. I don't know what it is. It just feels that way. But the upside is astronomical, like you mentioned.
Yep.
I mean, if this hits because of what we've seen him do as an athlete and more structure being around him, I think could really help here. Who's going to be a quarterback? I don't know. And I think more because of not Zachariah Branch, the quarterback position here really affected my decision, right? Like, I'm like, man, I still could say him having the same amount of production, and then we're just say, yeah, it is what it is. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know, but he's not a bad one to have. I would have just gone with another receiver that I thought was going to make or have a bigger impact here.
Okay, who you got next?
Isaiah World, the tackle from Nevada going to Oregon.
That dude's big as hell.
Very big. I said in the open that it's not going to be hard to miss this one. I felt like in the playoff game, you got bullied. Massively bullied. I remember both tackles getting pretty much manhandled. Ain't no dude 6'8", 365 that can move like that getting manhandled. I'm sorry. It ain't happening. Unless you get under his pads. I mean, I get it. I mean, this dude's throwing dudes around left and right. I know he's coming from Nevada. But, man, I see what everybody sees in him. Like, I mean, Joe, he's a number 1 portal player, number 2 portal player for a reason. I see it. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those guys that come out here and says, you know, the services 247 on 3, they got it wrong here. I can't do that. To be that big and that athletic is a little different. It actually, quite frankly, it is a little different. At 365 pounds, 335 pounds, whatever it was, Joe, that's like Shaq being your right tackle. I mean, Shaq's 7 foot, but you give him
right.
It's like a chunky, Twinkie-sized LeBron out there, okay? 6'8". This dude might block the sun for a small quarterback and Dante Moore, but this is why I'm going with it. I'm going with it because of I couldn't help myself in doing when we're doing the segment. I like the fit. I love the fit here. I mean, they have not been bad at recruiting transfer portal tackles, but I think that this guy could be a little bit different. I see why 40 teams in the portal offered him. Joe, 40 teams. Mm-hmm. Like, that's ridiculous. Everybody's going after him. So I think that a lot of people see the massive upside, but to protect a guy like Dante Moore could really, really add an addition for a young quarterback.
First of all, his name is extremely fitting because his name's World and he's the size of a planet. He is really fun to watch. I mean, you're right.
What a dad pun.
He's kind of got a little DeJuan Jones in him in the way that he's able to move. And the biggest part with this is the replacement of Cornelius and Connerly. They're moving on to the NFL. They had to find a guy that can start right away. And they've recruited well in their offensive line. But bringing World into the mix, I think, it's a good, important add. And I was debating it. I got a little bit distracted by the glitz and the glamour of ending up having 2 receivers on my list. My second one, and I really love your pick, but my second one, Casey Concepcion for Texas A&M coming from NC State. Him being at NC State, I don't think enough people really realized how good he was as a true freshman.
Bad situation.
Right. And look at the quarterbacks over the last couple of years that have cycled through NC State. They have not had consistency at quarterback, and he has still been super reliable and explosive. Texas A&M, we talk about another team that needs receivers. That was a big downside for them this past year. Inconsistent production from their receivers. Having Casey Concepcion, who was a bucket every time that he was running routes, and having him along with all these other dudes that are joining that receiver group that they were aggressive about bringing in, Micah Hudson and company. Concepcion's going to lead the group. I really think that this one, wherever he was going to end up, was always going to be somebody I was going to discuss.
So you got cutting the glitz and glamour. Mine's going to be a quarterback. My last one here. But in reference to Casey Concepcion, I mean, he's on my list here. I think Marcel Reed, for what it's worth, Joe, I see the talent there. I think they're going to get better offensively. I do wonder how that works with Colin Klein, but the kid is he's the perfect fit for them because he's your ultimate slot guy if they want to move him there. 1,000%. I think that you can utilize him in such a different way than you can so many other guys. I don't know what a good comparison in the league for him would be. I've been thinking about that all day. But
for Marcel Reed, you're saying?
No, for Casey Concepcion.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
I don't want to say what I feel like I'm seeing because it's not worth it. But I see the route running that he produces, and that's just where he separates himself, right? Like,
yeah,
he separates himself from those pop. I mean, you don't know where he's going.
Yeah.
Well, more than quick feet. There are special athletes that can stop on a dime. I have not seen someone that in a long time that just like literally boom, and then he's gone. That's where he's beating everybody. Because I don't know if the top end speed's there. Like, I don't know if he's the fastest wide receiver of all time. One thing I know is the Christmas. I was going to say another one would be like Waddle a little bit, right? But just a little bit different in the sense of that I feel like Concepcion's a little bit more physical. Mm-hmm. But, man, the clean route running, Joe, is going to be a big thing. Can Marcel Reed take the next step? I like the Casey Concepcion pick here.
Who's the last guy you got?
So my last one here is Fernando Mendoza at Cal. From Cal to Indiana.
You stole my last pick.
Okay, well,
I'm surprised that we agreed. I'm shocked that we agreed.
Fernando Mendoza. Brother, if he can do it at Cal, he's going to do it at Indiana with a more high-flying offense. Sorry. Cal almost beating Miami. Cal beating Auburn does not change anything for me. He does, though. Like, Cal had a bad season, not because of him. Fernando Mendoza, dude, I mean, listen. I feel like I'm seeing somebody at the end of the season that figured it out. I really do. This kid could be dangerous. What a massive pickup for Indiana. I love Fernando Mendoza going to Indiana.
He's good enough that I really thought that he was going to end up at like a premier school.
I did too. It's a steal.
Yeah, it really is. Indiana was a lot more successful in the portal than I think a lot of people realize. Their offensive line, I think, is going to be better. I think defensively, they went from being the G5 All-Stars to like actually bringing in some quality guys. Mendoza, the reason why I put him on here, I think it's easy to do the Carson Becks of the world, to go with those guys that are stepping into a situation, him playing a million games, could have been drafted this year, all that stuff. But Mendoza has a really nice ceiling. He's a nice athlete. He's got a good arm. He's mobile. He's good at improvising. He didn't have much to work with at Cal. Jaden Ott's a good running back, but outside of that, didn't really have a whole lot to work with. Him entering this situation and seeing the production that we got out of Curtis Rourke, I think that Mendoza is a better athlete and a better overall quarterback than Curtis Rourke was. And they lost Sunseri, who was going to UCLA, but they're returning their offensive coordinator. They're bringing back a situation for him that is built and conducive for him to have a very productive season.
I mean, look, the schedule flips. Right? I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten are doing the same thing. They're flipping the schedule. There's no like, Joe, in reference to them, it getting tougher for them, it doesn't exist. This kid would, brother, both of his premier running backs were out for the season. His offensive line was crumbling. Name a receiver at Cal. Like, you're not going to be able – go watch some of the stuff that this kid did. I think he could be really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think this was a really, really good fit for him. You know what my honorable mentions would have been here?
Who do you have?
Justice Haynes.
Okay.
At Michigan.
I like that one. I think he's going to run for a buck. He's going to run for 1,000 yards possibly.
You took my Georgia receiver pick.
Oh, who did you have instead?
But I had Noah Thomas.
Okay. Good player.
Noah Thomas can be special. He can really, really be special.
Well, and to that talking point, he's now entering a situation where he's not the only guy. He's got branch to play off of. So I think both of them are going to have great seasons. I really do.
Better start Ryan Puglisi. That's all I'm going to tell you. All right. We'll see you again on Wednesday. Only a couple of days. You better make your reservations for your boo things out there. Valentine's Day week, Joe.
I'm already I'm good to go. Reservations are made. Plans are made.
Good.
Did you wait last second? Is that why you're bringing this up?
I told my wife that she's got to make the decision. She didn't make the decision for 3 weeks. And today,
come on, you're setting yourself up for failure over here. What are we doing?
Listen, I know how this game works.
Yeah, but you want to get yelled at?
Oh no, I did it right in front of her, and we're gonna go out to eat. I tried to charm some hosts today on the telephone.
Okay,
my game's not as good as it was. I'm just gonna say, all right. I've been out of the game too long. My game's not good no more. We'll see y'all again on Wednesday. Have a good one. Peace.